What's in this for you? Well, if you produce electronic music and are using or maybe thinking of using Ableton Live as the center of your operation, I'll show you how I use Ableton as the boss of my setup so you can enhance your own situation. Now, you might already have a workflow that you like, but as we know, there are many approaches to making music. Is this the right method for you as a way to keep things spicy? Well, by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea. Ready, set, let's go. Hey, good people. I'm Sky Deep, a music producer, multimedia artist, and lover of community and VR. So, if you appreciate the life of a DIY tech artist, you can show some love by liking this video or connecting with me on Discord or checking out my stuff in the various platforms. Everything's written in the description below. So, how did this video come about? Well, I found myself constantly changing my setup. This was depending on my mood, but also whatever gig I happened to be working on at the time. In this case, sometimes I need to make music very fast and I don't want to feel any limits. Therefore, I just make sure everything is plugged in and connected and ready to roll. But I always need a brain of the operation. And this is what it looks like when I make Ableton the boss. I mean, the whole purpose of doing this is so that I can make music fast, right? So in looking at things, first straight away, I want to talk about, oh, there's a little fly in here, it's driving me crazy. I want to talk about the way that the hardware is connected here. If you take a look at the diagram, my laptop is showing, if you look at the mouse here, we have it connected to a USB hub, and then it's going, of course, to the audio interface over here. And then here in the middle, as the centerpiece, I put the MIDI interface, which is the Motu Microlight. That's just what I happen to have, and it has all of these inputs. And as you see, I'm also connected here to the Ableton push, of course. So now we show that our first connection with the MPC. We are going out of the MPC and into MIDI channels 1 and into the MPC from the interface with output number 1 from there. So this MIDI interface is connected via USB to the computer, and now anything that I want to send as far as MIDI information from the laptop will filter through here, and then I just have to configure things however I want them to work. So we can look at the next connection. I have the circuit mono station over here, and that's how I have that connected, going in and out of the interface. Then we have the same going on with the Syntakt to some other channels there, and you can kind of see that in a little bit in the area if you can see my rack just over there. That's where it's all going. That's pretty much the hardware setup. And now, hardware settings. It will be a slightly different procedure for each piece of gear that you configure the settings for, but the principle is the same across the board. Go to your settings menu, find the MIDI or sync settings area. Enable the receive clock setting. Enable receive transport or MMC. And if you want to use Ableton to change MIDI programs or patches in your device, then also enable Program Channel Receive. In my MPC, to enable external control over notes, but also to be able to send notes from it, I enable all the track settings for the in and out ports. In Syntakt, there's a checkbox setting for receiving MIDI notes if you want external control. Software versions. At the time of this video, my Mac OS is Ventura 13.4, and I'm using a MacBook Pro 14-inch in 2021 with 16 gigabytes of memory. Ableton Live, I'm using 11.3.3. The MPC Live firmware is 2.12, and my Syntakt firmware is 1.20. Let's jump right into the software. So we're here in Ableton, and I am going to Command and comma to pull up the preferences. And first off, you're going to start in your audio window. You're going to make sure that your audio interface is connected, both input and output, and that both are configured with however many channels you want to bring in or out. This is just a look at how mine is kind of looking. And then from there, you want to go to your MIDI sync. And inside the MIDI sync, if you have a control surface, you're going to make sure that they are listed here. In my case, I have the push 2 for sure. And then the Mackie control is actually my control surface here, my fader port 8 production controller. That is how I can control some of the faders and other functions. I love this thing. I'll talk about it in another video. But then you come on down and you check to make sure that your MIDI port settings are correct. In this case, here is my micro light, which is the MIDI interface that I showed you a bit earlier. And since I have 5 MIDI ports there, I need to enable them a certain way. So as far as input, I do want to be able to receive some input of like notes and things like that from my outside devices. So I have just enabled all the track settings in this section, but I'm going to leave sync off. You want to leave sync off because you can't sync both ways. You're going to get MIDI feedback and you don't want that. But where I am going to turn the sync on, because I want to send out the sync. Like Ableton's going to be the leader here. So we need to send that sync out. So here we see my micro light right there. And I have enabled all of the sync options as well as track, because I also want to be able to send notes from here. Okay? And that's the gist of it. And you might remember that in our diagram earlier, we had these different things going to these different ports, 1, 2, 3, 4, whichever. And so inside of the DAW, I also had those things, the 1, 2, 3, 4 situation set up. So now, just as a quick look, and I always keep this I/O box here, this right there, we always keep that available in open so that we can have this section here where we can make changes. So for example, let me go to, like this is my circuit monostation group, and these are my MIDI settings for this channel, right? And if I reach over here and turn on the notes of that machine, you see when I hit that we see the MIDI information coming up here in Ableton. If I highlight this channel and we see what's going on here, what I have done is I've put an external MIDI instrument on there so that we can make some changes. And as you see, the micro light is port 3 of the MIDI interface. This is where we have our circuit monostation info coming from. And then in this external Ableton instrument allows us to put audio out. So the audio is coming out of channels 11 and 12 from my audio interface. All right, and that's how I'm able to get some sound in there. But being that this is a MIDI channel, I cannot record audio here. But the good news is I can actually record MIDI notes if I want. So just as a quick look, right? Okay, so that's just like a quick look. And if we open up that MIDI window, boom, look at that. We have the MIDI info. Now, what can I do with that MIDI info? A lot, actually. Number one, let's say I want to play this back, and I'm going to turn down the volume. Okay, so I had a brief interruption because one of the lights went out, but now we're back at it. So let's see if I can pick up where we left off. So I have already demonstrated here how we can record MIDI notes into the system. And there they are. All right, but I just also wanted to show, since I did that using the mouse, that here inside Push, I can set up a nice fixed length recording of 2 bars. And if I stop the clip here in Ableton, I can press any of these buttons and make a new recording. So here we go. Okay, that's weird. So my circuit monostation just did something wonky and switched things up. But the beauty is that because I set it at fixed length, we only actually recorded the MIDI notes anyway. We were receiving MIDI into Ableton, but then Ableton started to play back that MIDI, right? So if I had wanted to record the audio at the same time, I would need to enable both the audio and the MIDI tracks for recording right there. All right, so let's take a look at what that looks like. So if you look here on the Push, now we see both of these are highlighted, and I can use my 2 fingers and enable the recording. Okay, so I'm gonna stop that MIDI clip, and now I'm just gonna play the audio back for us really quickly. Right, and there we have it. Now, the beauty is that I have this MIDI information in case I want to use the I/O section to send MIDI somewhere else, right? So that's just something that I can hold on to for later. So let's say I drag that over here and I have a BX Oberhausen plugin there. It's just on the default setting now, but I'd be very curious to see how that sounds if I play this clip. Let's see, BS Oberhausen, yeah. So I'm just gonna play that. Oh, so yeah, sorry for that noise. So actually, in order to play that clip, yeah, I'm just gonna hit Shift and then Stop Clip just to make sure all clips are stopped. And then what I'm gonna do is oops, hello Spotify, why are you there? I am going to quiet down the circuit monostation for a while because I don't need it, so I just turned down the volume on the box. And now when I hit play on this MIDI VST instrument, all right, so that's actually not working too. That's still giving me some kind of strange sound. To be fair, that's actually the sound of the instrument. So I need to take a closer look at this instrument and maybe change the setting. I'm just gonna pick something here. Let's pick some kind of piano keys. Let's just go back in time, whatever that sounds like. And this channel is indeed receiving my information from the Push because I can see it right here. I'm having a real weird situation where, do I need to? Ah, crap. I see what's happened now. All right. Okay, so as you see, I have dragged over the MIDI clip from the circuit monostation recording into Ableton VST instrument track, right? I want to get rid of these higher notes because they sound pretty harsh. And so, right? Okay, so that I just played for you is the sound of the BX Oberhausen VST instrument. But I could, if I wanted, play that alongside the Ableton clip. So like the CMS clip that I just recorded. So let's play them together here. There we go. So as you see, I can now layer that initial audio recording from my synth with any sound that I want to. Okay, so I can do that with any number of things that I want, but that's the gist of it, is like that I'm controlling everything from Ableton. So in a similar way, on the MPC, let's say that I am just recording quick audio clips into my Ableton session, sketching things out. I always preserve the MIDI info in case I want to do other things with it, but that's also so that I don't have to save everything in every single device. Sometimes I just want to get everything into one place where I can work with it. That's one of the hugest benefits of this whole picture. But see, on MPC, I can work with samples. I have these soloed. So when I unsolo everything, so let's say I have something playing in here. So just raise the volume of this real quick. Right, let's get it all up there. So just to be clear, like this is not necessarily the creative direction I'm going, but I just want to show you how this works. And then in another session, I'll actually get down and make some real beats with you. Right, and so this is how I can get ideas into the system really fast. Here, I could actually record my MIDI performance on the MPC, but then I can still, in a similar way, as I have here in my template set up, you can see that I have my audio straight from the MPC that I can send straight into Ableton. But likewise, I can go into the push, and on my MPC MIDI track, I can also do things. So for example, this is lit up, but where is it going? I need it to go to my MPC. So this is the MIDI that is going out here, and it's going to channel 1 of the MPC. In my MPC, if I go to another track and I make that a MIDI input or some kind of software synth in there. Now I'm pressing my Ableton push and I'm able to control over there if I wish. But either way, it works both ways. Okay, so these are some of the different things that we can do to connect Ableton as the boss of everything, but also that Ableton can receive both audio and MIDI. Okay, from everything, and that's pretty great. Similarly, you see I have some tracks here already for the Syntakt. These are my MIDI inputs, and it's the same scenario with that. So if I highlight the record function on there, you see I can play the Syntakt from the Ableton push. This is valuable stuff. So there you have it. I just wanted to show you that I can control all instruments from Ableton Live, but also the other way around, while recording both MIDI notes and audio. This is one way that I work when Ableton Live is the boss of my hardware synth setup. So stay tuned for other parts of the series where MPC or Syntakt will be the boss of everything. Listen, I hope you enjoyed exploring a different way to unleash your creativity with me. Before we wrap up, show some love to my channel in whichever way you choose. Could be your usual YouTube way, but I've also put some options in the description. So whatever you choose, it will really help me grow and share more music magic with more people looking for inspiration. I've got lots more exciting content coming at you, so from now on, you can just join my fantastic community on Discord where we share ideas, collab, or exchange feedback. Come say hi. And if you're hungry for more music production goodness, head over to my website and you'll find extra resources, exclusive content, and some surprises waiting for you. Check it out at skydeepofficial.com. Thanks for joining and keep creating. I'll see you on the next round.